Video I'm going to be comparing the Flash franchise to the Doctor Strange franchise. Now, of course, I've talked about the dceu along with actually the DC animated movie universe in a different video. In this case, I'm just looking at the 2023 Flash movie in the dceu, as well as Flashpoint Paradox, which was the kickoff to the DC animated movie universe. Comparing those to the Doctor Strange franchise, which includes both the two MCU Doctor Strange movies, along with this Doctor Strange movie from 1978. It's a movie called Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme, and then this movie called Dr. Mordrode, which is Doctor Strange in everything but name. These three movies are separate from the MCU. I haven't actually seen any of them, nor have I seen Flashpoint Paradox. When you look at highest score for each franchise, Flashpoint Paradox is a 100%. And then when you look at Doctor Strange, the first film from 2016 that was part of Phase 3 has an 89%. When you look at lowest score for each franchise, in the case of Doctor Strange, the movie Sorcerer Supreme only has a 58%. The Flash movie from 2023 only has a 63%. Flash wins again. And then when you look at average score, Flash has an average of 81. Doctor Strange only has an average of 65. Then when you look at gap between lowest and highest score, you got a gap of 37 in the case of Flash, and you have a gap of... Actually, I do need to correct one thing. The movie Dr. Mordrode only has a 36%. That's the lowest score. But still, Flash absolutely wins. Now you got a gap of 53 between 36 and 89. So gap smaller for Flash, and thus it wins again. And in this case, I'm definitely going to say that I prefer the Flash franchise to the Doctor Strange franchise. When I compare 2023 Flash to the two Doctor Strange movies, the biggest difference, in my opinion, is that Flash 2023 feels more unique, feels more distinct. Whereas when I look at the two Doctor Strange films, they frankly just feel more generic. They feel more like other comic book movies I've seen before. And actually, in the case of The Flash, I appreciate how the way that the conflict is resolved, the resolution in the third act, is different, frankly, for this kind of movie. It doesn't play out the way it usually does. It's less about trying to defeat this big villain that like wants to blow up a city, blow up the world, anything like that. It's more about the journey for Barry, him learning the lesson. And also, I like how the central story of Flash 2023 is this guy, Barry, who has all these powers that he's used to save other people, but he couldn't save the one person that means a lot to him. He couldn't save his mother. And then he figures out a way that he could maybe get her back, and thus tries to use his powers in order to get his mother back. I think that's quite emotionally powerful. Now, have I personally lost a family member too soon? No, I can't say that I have in that way. Not that I've never lost a family member. Yeah, there's two grandparents of mine that have passed away while I've been alive, but they were older, not that young. So it's like, okay, yeah, they lived a long life. There's at least comfort in that regard. It's not the same situation that Barry is in, where he lost his mother too soon. I think that really works. Does the CGI in The Flash suck? Of course it does. Everyone is going to agree with that. The CGI is inexcusably shoddy for a movie that cost over $200 million. Considering the budget of the movie, there's no excuses for how bad the CGI is. And yeah, the implications you get at the end of the movie are tricky. The end credits scene does leave you on a weird note where you go, wait a minute, why did they do that? With everything they could have done, why did you have that as the final note? Sure, it gets a laugh and a reaction out of an audience, but was that the best way to end the movie? Was that the best note to end things on? Probably not, but I really like Flash 2023. I think it's very unfortunate that the movie is just hurt by so many different things. Now, when I look at Doctor Strange 2016, it's very much a mixed bag because I go, a lot of the cast members here do a really good job. I mean, Tilda Swinton, Benedict Cumberbatch, for example, do a really good job. I appreciate that the Ancient One is killed and she's not revived. I think that the visual effects and action scenes are unique, are distinct. I like the way the third act plays out, where instead of Doctor Strange physically beating Dormammu in a fight, it's instead about Stephen outsmarting Dormammu. So it plays out differently than how it usually does in comic book movies. But then there are other aspects of the movie that make it just come off as generic to me and make it come off as a movie that's being made on an assembly line. First of all, the plot here feels reminiscent of Iron Man because both movies have the same character arc in them about a main character that starts off as an arrogant, pompous jerk that treats others around them badly, and then they go through a traumatic experience that results in a change for them where they become more heroic, more selfless. And also the love interest in Doctor Strange here, Christine Palmer, is not very interesting in my opinion. She just comes off as a generic MCU love interest. I also think that the movie suffers from an overabundance of forced MCU humor, forced MCU wisecracks and quips. Also, I think that the actor plays Caecilius is very talented. Mads Mikkelsen is the name of the actor. He does the best he could with the material given to him, but unfortunately, because Caecilius doesn't have enough screen time or development, the character ultimately just falls flat, comes off as a generic Marvel villain you don't remember. When I look at Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness, it's a real mixed bag. Do I like that we got an MCU movie from Sam Raimi that feels more like a horror film, considering that you have the main Doctor Strange we know possessing the corpse of a different version of himself and then using these demon-like creatures as wings? You get Zombie Strange in the third act, and also with Wanda, it literally comes off like she's a killer from a horror movie, from a slasher movie, especially when she's tearing up these bots, and so there's quote unquote blood all over her. It's not really blood, but that's what it looks like. And then when Wanda's chasing our heroes through these tunnels, you literally get a jump scare where she just suddenly pops out and you see her turn Mr. Fantastic into spaghetti. Okay, that was nice to see. There are moments of creativity in this movie for sure, like seeing two Doctor Stranges fight using musical notes. Okay, I enjoyed that. But I think that while there are good things about this movie, it should have been better than it was. Because the first act, it feels a lot like generic MCU stuff we've seen before. And then when you get into the multiverse part of the multiverse is so mad because people eat pizza out of a bowl and they go on red, stop on green. That's not very creative at all. And on top of that, while we see different universes for 2 minutes, we should have explored other universes a lot more than we actually did. I think it's super weird that Vision is not mentioned by name even one time in this movie. It doesn't make sense to me. And also, I think it's baffling that the movie says Mr. Fantastic is the smartest person ever, and then immediately makes him look like the biggest dummy ever, where he does something so ludicrously stupid. You go, really? Okay, well, this guy's not smart at all. And I think the Illuminati were wasted. So weird to bring Patrick Stewart back as Charles Xavier, only to have him be killed off a third time in a row after we only saw him again just a few minutes earlier, so he barely has any screen time. So while I don't think Doctor Strange 2 was as bad as Eternals for Love and Thunder or Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania, really, I didn't think it was very good either. So I definitely would choose the Flash franchise for sure. That'll wrap things up for this one.